You're listening to Trek FM.
Welcome, listeners, to another edition from There to Here, Trek FM's year-long project of a Star Trek rewatch in honor of the 50th anniversary. My name is Caitlin, and with me is Richard, and today we have another Voyager episode, Infinite Regress, and another Deep Space Nine episode, Covenant, for you. And without further ado, I'm just going to get into it with Infinite Regress's summary. Voyager encounters some Borg debris, and they realize that something is going on with Seven as she starts exhibiting what could be the Borg equivalent of multiple personality disorder. Other personalities that the Borg have assimilated in the past are manifesting in Seven of Nine. One time she's a Klingon, another time she's a child, and it takes Tuvok to engage in a dangerous mind meld to get to the bottom and rescue Seven of Nine from herself. Richard, why don't you begin with what you thought of this episode?
I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to have 30,000 or even two voices in my head other than my own. Definitely a very interesting episode. As we talked before, definitely we got to see the other side of Seven of Nine actually acting other characters, and it was definitely, for me, it was it was definitely something I enjoyed watching, because seeing her as, I don't know, it was a little girl or the first voice was a little girl playing kadis-kot with her, or kadis-kot with her. And it was like, what's going on? It's like, she's not the drone that we always see her in every episode. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow. It's like, and actually seeing her act in different people, it was refreshing, or at least for me it was. Yeah.
So Voyager is not nearly as arc heavy as Deep Space Nine. There is the whole, getting home from a 75-year-long journey back to the Alpha Quadrant, but it's much more episodic in the vein of TNG. Brushing up on these episodes for this podcast project, it made me realize that the thread of Naomi and Seven of Nine's relationship was really established in this episode, because only 2 episodes ago we had Once Upon a Time, and Naomi's still intimidated and afraid of Seven of Nine. Even though all the adults have welcomed Seven into the crew, Naomi still sees her as the Borg drone, and she's worried she'd be assimilated. Naomi's skeptical of Seven at first, but then plays with the kadis-kot, as you said, and it's probably scary for Naomi to see a grown woman act like a child and then be, but then she goes along with it. So it's just interesting to return to the roots of that relationship and realize that they did sow the beginnings of it between these 2 episodes.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And and it definitely was nice to see that. Eventually, she would have to befriend someone outside of her mother in Neelix. And what a great person to bring out another personality of Seven of Nine than a child, and especially a playful child who clearly loves, she's got that mature side, and she's also got that child side where she wants to play games, but she also wants to learn and be like Seven of Nine. Which I guess in a sense, when it comes to discipline, I don't know about morale, but definitely discipline to like her studies and just being an important piece of the Voyager crew that eventually, if they did the 20-30 year voyage or 75-year voyage, she'd probably be a part of the crew anyways. But
yes.
Yeah. So it probably would have been a good idea. But regardless, obviously it's only 7 years, but
it was very convenient that the scriptwriters decided Voyager should get home. But that's jumping the timeline because we're only in season 5 of Voyager right now.
Oh, that's right. They didn't make it yet. Sorry.
Yes,
Spoiler alert.
We're going to take a page from Mission Log and not jump the timeline. But the other great thing about Infinite Regress is it's an acting showcase for Jeri Ryan. She gets to shed her Borg drone persona and, you know, bring in all of these, you know, even channeling her inner Klingon for a bit. And I know it must take a lot of acting skills to episode after episode, day after day, maintain that composure and not really react to anything around you like the Vulcans do as well. But it's just nice to see every once in a while one of your favorite characters step out of the acting box, to mince my words and conflate metaphors.
Yep. Most definitely. All right, so on to our DS9 episode. So we have Covenant. Kira is abducted by a cult that worships the Pah-wraiths and is led by their master Dukat. So basically, this episode is Kira gets abducted by one of her mentors from her childhood and is found on Terok Nor. Obviously, they find the corrupt and even the crazy leader Dukat, who happens to be listens to the is speaking to the Pah-wraiths as their emissary, like Cisco is with the Prophets.
The Prophets, mm-hmm.
Right. So very interesting episode. Honestly, I mean, watching the episode, it was more of this is a Kira and Dukat episode. In the struggle between them on how and basically what Kira is saying to Dukat is that how did he manage to like manipulate all these people, which is only like 50 or 60 people on Terok Nor, to believe him that he's the emissary and to do basically his bidding or whatever is next. I mean, it's like, what's next? What are you gonna do? You're gonna exploit these people or what? Which obviously he does. So, what do you think, Caitlin?
I think this was an okay episode. Between of the block that I've covered, it might have probably been the weakest one. But it was still an interesting episode. I'm fascinated by the Bajoran faith. One of my passions is the intersection of religion and sci-fi. I had enough invested in this episode to keep going. You know, it does stand on its own. I think it is a letdown after watching the Siege of AR-558, but I think anything after that episode would be a bit of a letdown. But it's nice to get away from Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War just for an episode, for a palate cleanser almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the cult of the Pah-wraiths interesting. You know, it's good versus evil. The idea that the devil wanted to help and was cast out from heaven as a punishment for being involved and invested in the Bajorans. That's an interesting take on the whole good versus evil story that we as humans in the 21st century Earth have taken from history.
Right. Yeah, and it's showcased on Deep Space Nine. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
So.
Obviously, we all hate Dukat. Nobody likes Dukat, and clearly another episode with Dukat and Kira. We all know that it's not something we need to be reminded of constantly.
No, they're not suddenly going to become buddy and have drinks at Quark's. That's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. But I agree. It's not a strong episode. I agree.
I mean, thinking it over after watching it for this project, it's like, it is hard to guess what Dukat's long game is. I think Kira is put in a interesting position because her hatred for Dukat is kind of like, she has this inner conflict where she has this hatred for Dukat from day one, but she's a person of faith and she can't, she's struggling with reconciling that. Like, how genuine is Dukat's, let's use air quotes here for the sake of the episode, transformation? If he's claiming to be a man of faith, even though she's believing in the exact opposite what he's believing. So, as not of a good episode I found this to be, there's still a lot to unpack in this episode. And and unfortunately from there to here, we don't have enough time to sit on air. I'm sure after listening to this episode, you faithful listeners can bring your questions or your concerns to us in the Babel conference.
Right, and yeah, exactly.
And tell us how wrong we are or how right we are, and this is the best episode or the worst episode.
Right. Yeah, it can't be like Zach and I where we mess up the timeline by talking about the future as we did the last episode.
Yes. So, listeners, let us know how we're doing in the Babel conference. Both Richard and I have been making more of an effort to be active in that Facebook group. And as for myself, I can be found tweeting under Walsh Caitlin. That's my last name, first name, all one word. And Richard, where can you find us? Where can listeners find you, rather?
They can actually find me on Twitter at my handle is xransom. They also can find me on Facebook in the Babel Conference. I'm actually more in the Babel Conference than I am on Twitter. So,
all right, listeners, that does it for our block of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. But tomorrow there will be another 2 hosts with more episodes from both shows, and we're getting near the end of Deep Space Nine. So until then, live long and prosper.